I want to encourage people to come to the library and use our great cookbook collection. I know that there's lots of recipes on the internet, and when you have a bunch of lemons in the refrigerator, that you just go to the internet and Google lemon dessert, because who would want to make a salad or anything with lemons? You want a lemon dessert. But we have a fabulous cookbook collection, thousands of cookbooks, and I am a regular cookbook user and checker-outer. I have a pile here that I just pulled off the new bookshelf, so this is just a little sampling of what you can find when you come in to browse. This first one here, I browsed and I found some great pictures. Here's a sausage and fennel pizza, which I think I am going to check this book out as soon as I finish this videotape so I can go home. And pizza is something I've always wanted to make, but I really never have because it's so easy to buy, particularly in Iowa City where we have great pizza makers. But you could eat pizza more often if you made it yourself. Doesn't that look fantastic? I'm also a great dessert fan, as you can tell by looking at me. And looking at this particular piece caught my eye, a cornmeal and blueberry bread pudding. Doesn't that sound fantastic? So those are just a couple of pictures to whet your appetite, and I hope to see you browsing the shelves of the cookbooks at the Iowa City Public Library.
So I'm going to talk about Killer Mike's new album, Rap Music. It's a CD that I discovered at the end of last year. It came out in 2012 after I made my best of lists for myself. I was familiar with it because of the producer, which is LP. He's also a rapper. And Killer Mike is now coming to Mission Creek in 2013, so I thought I'd better listen to this. You can listen to this album on a lot of different levels. If you just want to hear the style, or if you like the style of aggressive hip-hop or a bit dark, swaggery, or message-based. If you listen for lyrics, it's quite political. It's also has a lot to do with family life, life of African Americans in general, police, murder, early death, and it's quite modern, but it has throwback to classic hip-hop of Public Enemy or Ice Cube. So if you like those style, KRS-One, these musicians, then you'll really enjoy this album.
This is a great book of poems. It's called The Green Lake is Awake by a relatively unknown New York poet whose name was Joseph Saravallo. In the introduction, written by Kenneth Koch, who was a New York School poet, Koch talks about Saravallo's poetic subject, quote, is often a moment caught, as it were, off guard and open to all kinds of other moments and their sensations. And then he quotes from a poem. Then there is nothing. Think, the angular explanation. Boom. He was a parade with a gift, a question, cable of, thought, a thermos savage in the hotel, in Veracruz color, sand, the boat. Koch continues to say, this is not just language. No such remarkable description as that of a man as a parade with a gift could be that, but descriptive language arranged and disarranged in such a way as to keep the feelings and ideas fixed in it, fresh and sharp, every time the passage is read. My experience finding Saravallo maybe was 5 or 6 years ago. Most of his books were barely in print, if in print at all, and friends had recommended Saravallo as sort of this underground poet who mixed this startling clarity of his writing, but also it's very disjunctive and slanted in a way. I came to the poems and fell in love with them. And one of the reasons I wanted to recommend this book, which is in the library collection, is that in March, Wesleyan University Press will be releasing the collected poems of Joseph Saravallo. And that book is a real monument, I think, and I think it will bring Saravallo back into the conversation, or into a conversation, as one of the more important 20th century American poets. Something that would shock him, I'm sure, as he lived in relative obscurity for most of his life, although apparently he was a happy person and not particularly concerned with it. So take a look at The Green Lake is Awake, and then check later in March or April for the collected Saravallo.
Hello, today I'm going to talk about a couple books that I really enjoy by an author, Charles Todd. Charles Todd is actually a writing team that's a father and son who are working together. So a few weeks ago I went on a plane trip to Florida and I needed to load my Kindle up with lots of local history books so that I would have books for the trip. So I found a book called The Walnut Tree by Charles Todd, and it's not one of the books that I'm showing here, it's on my Kindle and I didn't bring that. But basically it's historical fiction, it's set in France, 1914. Lady Elspeth Douglas is from Scotland. She's visiting a friend in Paris, and she falls in love with a Parisian man, but the war breaks out, so she has to return home, and it's really a struggle for her to get to a place where she can get on a boat to go across the English Channel to go back home. But she meets some friends from Scotland along the way, and eventually she does make it back to home, but she's very spunky, and she saw the tolls the war was taking when she was trying to get back to that boat, so she decides to join the nursing service. And she's actually an orphan, and she has somebody, an uncle, who kind of cares for her. Well, she didn't tell him that she was joining the nursing service. She just went ahead and joined. And she saw that she really could make a very tremendous difference in the lives of the soldiers. But her uncle finds out. She ends up having to stop doing that. But then as the war goes on, they realize that they really need the service of people like that. So a couple other things happen. She meets up with somebody from home, and just a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful story called The Walnut Tree by Charles Todd. And because of that book, I went and found a couple more, and I'm going to start reading her Bess Crawford series.